Hello there. Whoa, four likes already. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of music commentary following the Bad Batch episode. This is episode 9, Bounty Lost, and Justin and James are here with me to talk about the music and sound things that we
Oh yeah.
noticed.
Yes, excited.
Yeah.
Very
Nice to
excited.
be here.
Last week, apparently, we were having an echo problem.
That was
at
weird.
portions, and I was not monitoring that. I couldn't hear it. So I don't know. So tell me if that ever happens again. I am echoing in someone's ears though, so maybe someone has their volume turned up. But anyway, Jonah says welcome back, Justin. Oh yes, we missed Justin.
Yes, we missed Justin.
Super
Hey
happy to
Kyle,
be back.
nice to see you. Kyle Katarn has an awesome YouTube channel, and knows a lot about games and Star Wars. Okay. Ooh, we like to start these things off with like a quiz and a sort of round robin of just pulling out little examples that we noticed from the episode and trying to make each other guess based on the sound where these things occurred. So, who wants to start? I feel like I do this every time, and then every time I say, "I'll go."
So,
go ahead.
Justin, I feel like we had such a gaping, hole in our hearts last week that was Justin shaped. So I want to hear from
like
Justin this week.
The full,
Okay, I got two sounds and maybe a music one for you all. Let's see, but this one was fun.
So just so you know, this is like we are playing these. We're not extracting them from the episode. So anything that we do is sort of like a remake, and it might not be the right instruments, or it might be sort of
cover.
Close. It's a cover, yeah.
As Tenacious D once said, this is not the greatest song in the world. This is just a tribute. Okay.
Exactly.
So.
So Justin is doing the same thing with sound design as well. So he's like recreating synthesized sounds.
Okay. So this one is kind of both musical score and sound design, but I really liked it. Let's see if we.
Wow.
Do you want to guess, James?
Wow.
That's really great. Also, should we say the answer now, or I feel like maybe I should give one of my examples. You'll see why.
Oh no!
Yeah, go ahead and follow up, Xanthe. Yeah.
Because it might be related. Okay. Bear with me. I'm looping myself a little bit.
No worries.
All right. Oops, I wasn't turning my thing on. Okay, no, here we go.
I was just about to. I think we do have something. Okay, so it's all you, James.
So this reminds me a little bit of...
Oh wait, we have a guess.
Ooh.
So what?
The old pods, no.
So this reminds me of, this. Yeah, this moment. What is this moment? I was hoping that you would
can add one bit of dialogue. Do you want a hint?
Let me let me think. This is not, this is not what she's looking at the. We'll talk about that moment later. The cloning facility. That's not that
Mhm.
spot. So this is man, this is such a great. I can't. Yeah, give me a hint. I need a hint. Give me a hint.
Okay.
Within the first 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah. Um. So this sounds like when Bane is when they're arriving, right? At the station? No? It's
No,
not.
not quite.
Not at all.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Or is this the Oh, I know what this is. I know what this is. I know it. Okay. So this is on Camino, right?
Yes.
This is on Camino in the chambers where they're talking, right? Where the multiple Caminoans are talking. Yeah. Synthy crazy sounds in that moment. I was like, I remember this moment, and I was like, oh, I really hope Xanthe or Justin talks about these sounds here, these amazing synth sounds. Which I'm trying to. What do you think about these sounds? Do you think that these are score, or do you think these are diegetic sounds of the
Score.
room? Yeah,
I think I would
yeah,
agree that it's score. What Xanthe was playing was definitely the background, this very drony kind of. It was almost like ominous, but also like this kind of like background peaceful ambient. Like maybe that part could have been theoretically diegetic. Like this is the
I
mood
think
music
you
of
know
the
what's
room.
funny is
sure,
I think the part that you played, Justin, was part of the score too. Because when I was listening to it, like just my first watch, one of my note there was automatically that's a D string harmonic.
yeah.
And
Right. It,
yeah.
I would agree with
Unless
that. It's
they just have
absolutely
unless they just have some great like meditation music going on in the background. What because I noticed this particular setting last week when we see when do we see this? Oh, when you get the flashbacks or the scenes where they're talking about, oh, we've got a bounty hunter that's gonna that kind of gives us the foreshadowing to Cad Bane. There is a sound in that moment that's kind of like a wah 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 wah. That is a
yeah.
diegetic like sound in the room, and I don't know if we heard that sound in this scene in the background somewhere, but I definitely obviously heard all these like amazing synth and bass tones. So
Yeah. I thought it was reminiscent of like spa music.
Yeah,
yes.
very much. And what gives it away as a score element for me is that it was the sound that we were both kind of emulating on the violin and on the synth happens in a transition, and right when they say terminate Omega after you get the genetic material, and then it goes to Omega in Bane's cell, and then the sound plays again. So it definitely treats itself as a score element. And recreating it was interesting too because
I was gonna say
you heard
I would like to hear yours again because I think it's interesting how we, I mean, we recreated it in completely different ways. I mean, me,
right.
I could just tell it was it sounded like an artificial harmonic, like sort of with one finger down and the other finger just lightly touching. And Kyle plays or used to play viola in the chat, so I know that he knows what this is. But like, um, how did you do it? You must have used two separate tones, right?
Yeah, that's what I had to do. There's one glistening up to the G and one kind of glistening up to a D, so you get that nice harmony. But they both work at the same time
Yeah.
with each other, kind of a thing. And there's that ever so slight presence of noise in there that
Yeah.
I noticed with the tone. It's got this
Yeah, like a breathy
that
sound,
kind of
and it fizzles in
exactly.
and out. It's like a filter that
Hmm.
goes in and out, right? Yeah, really,
Exactly.
really,
So that's kind of what I
really
added
cool.
in there, mixed in with it.
I think that's really interesting because you really emphasized you really emphasized both of the notes. Whereas like if you were playing it on a string instrument or if this is a sample library obviously. So in their fake instrument whatever they're doing is sort of I mean, harmonics are sort of just a natural byproduct of physics. So let me just explain what I'm talking about. So a harmonic on a string instrument is produced when you like lightly touch the string, or you kind of bisect the string, or like touch it at a certain spot. Put it this way, where the place where you touch it ends up making like overtones apparent to the ear, and you can sort of hear a different type of sound. So like that sound it's a D. So normally I would play a D like, or but that was sort of like a glassy tone, as you could hear, and you can also make a D by just lightly tapping. I'm not even, you can't see, but I'm not even pressing my finger down. I'm just like lightly tapping it.
Hmm.
But that one, because there's a slide, I could tell that it was an artificial harmonic, which means that you're pressing down one finger and lightly tapping the other, so you're kind of creating an artificially shorter string.
Oof.
So I'm fingering this note. And then, I'm fingering this note.
Oh, I
And
see.
then
Yes.
tapping up here. So,
Ah.
and
I remember
when you're,
being confused
yeah, harmonics are
by
so
this.
confusing. I
Yeah.
barely understand them, but I can just play them. So that is something where like you don't really hear the lower note as much when you're playing it on a real instrument, and unless you are specifically pinpointing the other tone, because there are two fingers that there are two notes that I'm touching, but the distribution of which ones end up being like what's it called? Like the pitch that registers is different. And I think it's,
Fundamental,
Yeah.
right? Or
yeah,
the
it's
or
called
the
like the fundamental pitch, and
Right,
the
right,
other
right,
stuff
right.
is like the harmonics. And it's a real treat to hear like Justin sort of spell it out with both of the notes, so that you can actually hear like both of the, like what it actually is, but just more exaggerated. So I love that.
And
really
it's
cool.
cool that all this is natural within instruments in themselves. If anybody's a guitar player, you can do kind of the same thing. Um, well, I mean, exactly the same thing with the
Yeah.
strings. So you might be familiar with the idea of harmonics, or if you're a heavy metal fan like me, something called pinch harmonics, which is
Oh
kind of
yeah.
forcing a string to to play these high squealy notes that they shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That and a lot of distortion will do that, but you know.
So that was a cool
So
spot.
that's hilarious that we picked the same atmosphere, and we were fascinated by that same. And the other thing about that sound that I really enjoyed is while I was creating it, I was going, "This is a very pleasant sound." Placed in a very dark moment, out of
Yeah.
context with the rest of the score, it doesn't sound as ominous as it almost it kind of sounds happy to me for some reason.
Well, the
And then
Sure.
score in
place
general does use a lot of like pitch bending and a lot of
Mhm.
sliding. Like, I mean, we got a lot of the like Phoenix
Right.
stuff here, and so it seemed to kind of just fit right in there.
Mhm.
So do you think when you go get a massage, like on Coruscant or something, like they're like, "Would you like the sounds of Camino, or would you like,
Well, the
would
sounds of
you?"
Camino are just like rain, right?
Well,
Just
yeah.
storms,
Except
just
it's
stormy
yeah,
rain
it's a
just
storm.
playing through the
It's not the
speakers,
same
Well,
type of
and
rain. Yeah.
maybe this is like traditional
play in the
Camino and
background.
folk music, right? Like
Camino and folk
maybe.
music.
Really nice though. Really nice part of the score, and I'm glad I guessed it. Because I
Sort
because
of.
I I'm glad
I'm just
I'm,
kidding.
I'm glad I guessed it because I when I was listening to it, I was really hoping that we'd do it, that we'd talk about it because it's a really gorgeous moment, but also like you said, that's a very ominous moment, right?
Yeah. Justin, actually, James and I picked the same spot last time too.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's great.
but
Oh,
I
that's
pointed
right.
out
Yes,
I
yes.
pointed out the string part, and he was like, "I have a rhythm for you," and I was like, "I think those are the things that I did notes for," and so we kind of put
Right.
them together.
Right.
Yeah, James is a
Okay.
drummer. If you didn't know,
Yeah, if you weren't aware.
percussionist. Yes.
So speaking of which, why don't I jump into one of my things real quick? Okay.
Mhm.
I have two. There's a sound that I picked out that happens multiple times percussively in the score that I'm not able to perfectly recreate, but I can talk about it how it's, because I don't have the items available to me. For those of you who even found the show, I'm in my sister's place in Maine and don't have any instruments except for baby instruments and kitchen supplies. So I've been kind of making do for the last
Which
few
oddly works for Sid's bar.
Oddly has worked. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna cover a couple spots that have these sounds, and and let me just make sure I've got it correct real quick. Okay, here we go. Here's the first one, and I can break up mine, and we can do one of mine and then go for another one. But it's basically this. All right, here we go. Ready? Here we go.
Is it sort of like with?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, this
Yeah.
is like, you're right, in a few places.
Anyone know?
Um,
I mean, this is a big part of the episode.
Maybe I can use a slightly like. No, that's not really much better. I actually, there is the specific type of percussive beating implement is I do not have access to. So
What were they using?
I feel like I might give it
brushes?
away, but it's brushes. Yes, it's brushes.
Brushes. I was gonna say it's brushes, right? So then it's okay.
We
I
have a
might have a
guess.
guess.
Jonah has a
Is
guess.
anybody else?
Jonah says Bane versus Fennec.
What do you think? What do you think?
Bane
Justin?
versus Fennec.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what.
I'm I'm
What
in
do you think,
agreement
Justin?
with Jonah. I'm in
Okay.
agreement with Jonah. There's some great brush percussion moments during Bane versus Fennec.
Yes,
Yes.
this is exactly the moment. So this is Bane fighting Fennec, and then Omega's on the run, right? Trying to escape. Exactly.
Yep, exactly. And this sort of like comes in and out because there's like crosscuts and things. And they sort of like change the tempo during those crosscuts. Like it's all a very up tempo action cues, but they do like when Omega's like climbing up the ladder, it still is
Yeah, a
action
little
stuff, but it
faster.
is a little no, it's a little slower. Well, I guess it depends on where you're considering the beats, but it's different music when she's climbing up the ladder than when like when she's climbing up the ladder, it's like there's like a G violin tremolo because I only pay attention to the violin parts. But that was sort of like that. I feel like whenever you're climbing something or scaling something, same thing, or balancing, waiting for something to fall. Like I feel like violin tremolos are like the thing to just put in there.
Yes,
Or like a
absolutely.
sustained violin note where you're like, what's gonna happen? Don't tip it up. Don't tip it the wrong way.
The action, suspense.
Yeah.
Boom, until something happens, right? So with these brushes, I've noticed them not just in the action moments, but definitely kind of like whenever Bane was on screen, kind of a thing. So I feel like, do you feel like it adds to his like obvious Western cowboy
I think
kind
so.
What did everyone think of? Tell us. What did you think of Cad Bane's music in general, or in this episode versus last episode? Either one.
It's given me that kind of, I just want do you to come in.
We did get that.
Really, really
We got
bad.
that.
Yeah,
We get this
we
at the
do.
intro, right? We get this at the intro, or like in the beginning of the episode, and it really doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
That outright Western sound. again. And
Mm-hmm.
we were curious about that last week, right? Because they kind of set that up as like is kind of his intro music, right? But it doesn't, and we get that a little bit. And then after that, it's kind of like they're like, okay, here it is. Here's the Western thing, and we're not going to keep this going because it really wouldn't make any sense if we could, because it was so,
There,
like we talked last week, Xanthe, it was so on the nose of those tropes, right?
Yeah. I think we did actually get hints of it later on, just not the full Monty, not the full thing,
Oh,
but
for sure
we did
not.
get sort
Yeah.
of a half bit of it later. I'm actually surprised that they used the same base, like pretty much the same Bane cue from last week in this episode. And I guess, yeah, maybe it is just his
Mm-hmm.
new intro music. Um, but he did have music in Clone Wars. Um, a little bit
Mm.
associated with him, and it is sort of here, but it wasn't. I don't remember it being like so full on Western. Like
Yeah.
it,
right.
I think it had the no, there was something to it, like a horn thing that carried over from Clone Wars. But I sort of thought that the Western whole Monty was just for the standoff. So that's why I was surprised when it
Agreed.
was just
Yeah.
just him coming to check on Omega. I thought that was a little bit weird. I thought it was out of place, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did we
And
hear
it,
a
like,
little? I was gonna say a little rattlesnake
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
we
thing.
did. Yep.
rattles
Seed
Into
for sure.
rattle, the guitar,
let's
everything. Yeah.
are there rattlesnakes in space? In
We talked
galaxy?
about this last week. We talked about this where it's just so interesting how, like, obviously trying to emulate the Western trope, you're going to end up carrying over elements that don't contextually don't have a place,
Hmm.
but it's more of just an artistic context. Like it has, if you were to explain this to someone who has never seen a Western or like doesn't care, and you're trying to make them like care about, convince them that the music there is good, it would be like worthless to do that because it only makes sense if you know Western tropes. If you try to, be like, where's the rattle? Where's the rattlesnake? Um, yeah. So, I mean, I think that the Cad Bane's music is like a perfect example of how just like culturally specific music for media can be, and how like it's just like a good reminder to be open minded to everyone's opinions on things because we don't always all have the same experience, and so cultural things that might mean something to one listener might not carry over
Mhm.
to another. And
Right.
yeah,
It's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of similar. And I know that I know that Xanthe, you don't have, you have your own, opinions on Thrawn's music from Rebels.
oh,
But he has that organ music that elicits these like gothic sounds,
you
right?
mean
Like,
Thrawn?
I said Thrawn, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
Solo.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. The organ music, right?
Yeah.
And those elicit these sounds of like, like Dracula and like the gothic, sounds of being, in these old spooky movies, in the cathedral, spooky cathedral
Mhm.
sounds, right? Which that's kind of what that vibe is of Thrawn sound, even though obviously there isn't like, Catholic churches in Star Wars with organs, you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah, it's like
Right? And
anyway, sorry.
right. And obviously, I know, Xanthe, you've got your opinions on like whether or not that actually
Is
accurately
appropriate.
portrays his actual character.
Yes, I do.
Yes, but this is very similar to this idea that we have here with
Totally.
the Western trope, right? It's like
Mhm.
out of context, it doesn't make any sense in the universe, but that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, brushes on metal. We got metal sounds. I'm very curious what the sound is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a sample library, but this elicits these sounds of like brushes on gongs, muted gongs, because you don't
Mhm.
hear the full resonance of the instrument. I've got this. Oh, I didn't even show you what I'm using. I've got I've got a skillet, okay, and a chopstick. So
It's a great combo.
and I'm tapping on my desk.
It must be nice to
Right.
be a drummer and make the world your instrument.
Thank you, John Cage, for all these ideas once upon a time.
Yeah, right.
So, and Lou Harrison.
The cutting room floor says Thrawn might be Catholic.
Thrawn.
I think I
I,
think that might be the answer. Yes, I think you're right. He does
Yes,
wear
exactly
white.
right. He does wear white. Yeah.
That's funny.
Um,
Wait, so the Cad Bane thing that we get later on in the episode is it's like it's on guitar, so it's like so we do get that, and he steals art. Oh, just gonna put that up there. So
Steals art.
yeah, that happened.
got him.
Anyway,
Got him. All right.
yeah. How did we get on the subject of Cad Bane?
The music
Because
of
this,
Fennec
this sound is common in when
when Bane's on
Oh,
on
yes,
the
yes, yes.
screen.
Yeah.
So I do want to say another thing about Bane, and I guess we're just calling him Bane now, Mr. Bane.
Mr. Bane.
Mr. Bane and Fennec's music. The music during their fight, I felt like, I mean, it was what's it called? Like non-aleator. What's it called? Aleator. Non-specific to either character. Although I think it was more
Sure.
so, if I were to put it in one character's, musically, it was more Cad Bane than Fennec, is what I'm trying to say. And
Sure. Yeah.
I was a little disappointed to not get Fennec, what I considered to be Fennec's theme in here, but now it's actually making me think back and wonder if what I thought was Fennec's theme is maybe not, or like that whole thing is like it's being called into question in my mind. Do you know what I'm talking about, Justin?
I get what you're. Yeah, I feel like we did get a little bit of some Fennec at the very end as she's
Just the pitch bend
running.
thing though.
Just the pitch
Yeah.
bend thing, which I guess in my mind I kind of consider Fennec's theme, and then everything else is kind of like a variation of that or like extension kind of a thing.
But
But
there's
it's
like a
it's with
really
that
specific one.
sound. There's
I'm
a
gonna
sound.
gonna
It's
do it
just that
again.
that sound is what brings me to Fennec, I guess.
Likewise.
So
More
Fennec
than
has
Likewise.
fine,
note,
fine, fine. But Fennec has
you
two.
know.
But the thing is, okay, it's normal for these characters, especially in animated shows, especially in films nowadays, and especially in TV, where the themes, the motifs and themes are very short and not like the same thing as like a John Williams theme. They're very short,
Right.
and that makes sense for the format. And
Mhm.
something like the dee is like a Fennec calling card, and you don't need much more. And same with the others. And so there's a lot more reliance on the specific instruments rather than the actual melody or harmony and whatever. And that's fine. It's just a different
Right.
different type of like, sonic calling card. However, whenever a character or whenever this show has bits of music that feel like there's something more to them, then that perks my ears, because mostly it's action cue after action cue, like atmospheric thingy, blah, 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 whatever, just like something repeated, something repeated, something repeated. But, obviously Omega's theme stands out because it's sort of has like two parts, and it's like, you can harmonize it in different ways, and there's even a specific harmony associated with it. And the thing is, in episode, what was it, 4, 3? When we first saw Fennec, and
Right.
we got
4.
we got two things for her, and one of them was so striking that like I had predicted that it would become like a much bigger thing, and I was totally wrong. It's not even on it's not even on the soundtrack that came out. Okay, yes, the soundtrack that came out yesterday. And what I'm talking about, and maybe you can tell me if this is supposed to be associated with something else, or if like tell me why this wasn't in part of it. Okay.
I remember that.
That's like such a specific, beautiful, like, more than just a little calling card. Like,
Specifically when that happened, when we were introduced to that theme, was that when she was talking to Omega
it came
and
up a
trying to
few times in the episode.
a few
Couple
times in
times.
that episode? Maybe it was a kind of a like we don't know this person yet kind of a thing, and now that we've established what Fennec's mission is, and really by the end of this episode really found out who they were working for, which I thought was really kind of an interesting reveal.
Mm.
Um, uh, maybe it's we've now established that this is Fennec's sound, this is their theme in a
Or
way,
maybe
rather
just
than trying to
because,
like,
or maybe
or
they
we
just,
haven't had time,
yeah.
because that was like a conversation like piece kind of thing. We had a little bit of like, I'm here to help you, Omega, this time, but really it was trying to her and Fennec were just going at it, or Bane were just going at it the entire time.
Well, and I guess here's the other thing though, Xanthe, is that this episode recontextualizes that character, right? So this episode is now Fennec is not an antagonistic force in this episode. I mean, she is for a second, and then ultimately it's revealed to the audience. You've got the dramatic irony that is, we've got as an audience member, we're like, oh, Fennec's actually there to protect Omega, and actually Fennec is actually a part of kind of somewhat of a protagonistic force here, and so maybe that theme might represent Fennec's I mean, that is not necessarily a very friendly sounding theme. That's not necessarily a theme that elicits like someone that you can necessarily trust. It's got lots of slinky sounding sneaky sounding sounds in it in some ways. So maybe there's, because she's kind of been recontextualized as the person fighting Cad, who's literally just trying to hand Omega over to her captors and people that would terminate her. Maybe that wouldn't fit the thematic content of what's going on in the scene, right? Maybe that's also one long drawn out one way of thinking about it. So
I do hope we do. I do hope that we get more of that theme. I am with you there, Xanthe.
Also,
that we get more of
Lucasfilm,
that.
I'm available for hire if you want me to play that.
tune in to
Kevin.
the book of Boba Fett for that theme to
It won't
reappear.
kill you to use a real musician for one of the cues.
We have a theme request, Kevin. Come on.
Okay,
If you're listening.
I have two possible explanations for this, because I do think that was like, okay, the Kaminoans don't create without a purpose. A composer, especially for a TV show with tight deadlines, doesn't create an actual melody without a purpose. So I feel like there has to be a purpose. I feel like there should be a purpose for that. And I feel like maybe what you're saying is, there's no time to put it into this fight. Maybe, maybe it comes later. Maybe it's sort of more of Fennec, when she is more by herself, like type of thing. Also, I just think fitting it into the context of what James was playing and like the whole action cue, it probably would have been just more difficult to squeeze in. So it probably was, deemed sufficient to put her little short calling card in there. And I think that's a fine choice. But I'm not sure. And if I listen to this, I listen to at least the part of the sound, like the most of the soundtrack, the parts where there's one thing on the soundtrack, I think called Fennec's theme or like Fennec Shand or something. And so I was like, okay, this is where it's going to be that theme. And it actually wasn't on there. So that surprised me. And also my immediate next thought was, oh, maybe that's a Ludwig Göransson theme. So maybe, because, sometimes they'll remove the cues that belong to other composers. And so that made me think like maybe he wrote that, and so it was taken out of her track. But I haven't, and I tried to watch like supercuts of like all the Fennec Shand scenes, but I couldn't detect it. But I wasn't super thorough. I haven't seen everything yet. So that was my other thought.
Again, Xanthe, you might be right about it being a Ludwig theme, but it was written for the Book of Boba Fett coming up. We're going to see this character a lot.
Of course, that's probably like the. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh. So, okay.
We have a whole nother show where she's going to be like a pretty prominent main character.
True.
So here's the thing: is she had a bit of dialogue that Rex was very similar to Rex's closing dialogue, which was "You know where to reach me," which to me means I will no longer. I am not going to be in the show this season, but maybe next season I'll be back. That's kind of like the I'll see you next season, everybody. Wink, wink. Because I don't think she'll be back
Yeah,
this season. I think
I
that's
noticed
probably the end
that.
of when we're gonna see Fennec.
I
Um,
thought
I
her saying that
or
though
we'll
was
see her
actually
at the
hilarious.
finale, right? So
Yeah, I thought it was like her catchphrase though, because I remember at the first time we met her, she said I had to go back a few episodes because it sounded so familiar. Is that if they come back, you know how to contact me? It's kind of maybe that's her like, you know how to find me. Here's my calling card. You got
Yeah.
my number.
you have Ming-Na Wen's agent's number, so you know how to get me
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
But they made her model. That's what we keep saying. Jonah says,
It's
but there are
right,
John
yeah.
Williams themes on the soundtrack. I'm curious which ones you're referring to, because I haven't finished listening to it. Blue Pig Gaming
Well,
says, is it
we
confirmed
obviously have
there's going to be?
well, I haven't listened to the soundtrack, but obviously we had the Trade Federation theme, right? A couple years.
Mhm.
I didn't hear that on the soundtrack, but I could have been wrong.
Okay.
I heard hints. I thought I was hearing a hint of the Force theme on one, but it didn't like play so fully that it seemed like, like when you kind of evoke another theme without actually
Mhm.
using the full thing. So you don't have to actually cite you know, you don't have to owe royalties.
Um, to Blue Pig, I don't. They definitely haven't confirmed season 2, but I think I would be surprised if they didn't make a season 2. I'm feeling like that's where we're heading with this show. This seems like
Yeah.
a long story. And then Goranson, actually, I'm talking out of my you know what when I'm talking about Ludwig scoring Book of Boba. I assume he was, since it's a similar team. Obviously, it's and I think they're in production at different times than Mando. But it's very well could be somebody else. So don't take my word on that. Have we received any word on who's scoring Book of Boba?
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Cutting room. That was me just being speculative. So, which I assume he scored he gave Boba Fett his theme in Mando. That kind of that sound. So I imagine some of those sounds, whoever's scoring it would carry those over, right? So
You're right. You're right, Jonah. I remember that now. The Trade Federation theme and the Imperial March and the Emperor theme. It's sort of obviously toward the beginning of the soundtrack. Um, yeah, like stuff that I think is especially part of the pilot or part of episode 1. Yeah, I'm gonna finish listening today. But wait, do we have more examples? I do.
Justin, you got something?
Yeah, I got one more. Hold on.
Wait.
I gotta
At the
remember.
same time,
Let's.
Xanthe, have you even gone yet? No, yeah,
I
you
was gonna
you
say
doubled up
no.
with Justin.
Yeah, I
Let's
can
get a
go.
Xanthe
I have another
original.
one.
Let's do a Xanthe
Let's hear it.
original.
I was about to say.
Come on. Yeah.
What?
What is this?
Does anyone know where that is?
Um.
Oh.
Okay, I have a guess.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is this at like? Is this at 9:50 something?
No.
Okay. Okay. I
What's happening
promise
at
that wasn't like
9:50
a
something?
random guess.
What's happening at 9:50 something?
I remember there being a very big swelling moment up into another one of these brushing on the
Okay. It didn't go.
moments.
It didn't go to brushing. Jonah says the beginning
Okay.
scene.
Yeah.
Can you be more specific?
That's right, because they're being chased by Costa. Is it
That was a sound effect that's in there. That wasn't me celebrating
they're
myself.
flying? They're,
Hyperspace,
that
going in hyperspace.
No, it's not Fennec's theme. Hyperspace.
Woo.
Yep. Yep. It's when they say, make the jump. Make the jump.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is big building sounds and then silence when people either escape through hyperspace or just escape in general. And usually, you know, there's like those moments like when Vader is looking out in Rogue One. You know, there's moments where whoever is pursuing them is now stuck watching them escape in hyperspace.
That, to be fair, there is a crescendo. Like it does get louder there. I just couldn't emulate the crescendo on this instrument. So maybe you would have gotten it immediately. Yeah. Cool. When Crosshair is chasing
That was
them.
good.
Yeah, that was good. Jonah, you were right about it being the beginning. Justin, you have got another one? Oh, got a cutting room floor says it sounds like something from the 1980s droid cartoon. I haven't watched that yet. Should I watch that? Should we watch that?
You definitely should.
Should we react to the music? Is there music
we
in
should
it?
definitely review. I haven't seen that since I rented it in VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember being like, what is this like off-brand Star Wars? I remember like not liking it because it was like some weird uncanny valley of it like not really being Star Wars. You know, it is Star Wars, obviously, but it was like, this is not nearly as good as the movies. Why did I get this?
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Let's watch it though. Let's do it.
Let us know if you'd be interested in that. The Blue Pig Gaming says it's the instrument it's being played on, but I agree with the cutting room floor, saying it sounds like something from the 1980s droids cartoon.
Interesting.
I guess I will see.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
God,
all right, Justin.
I still find it funny that it's animated, and it's just so. Oh, it's so wonderful. I hope we do that one.
Let's do it.
Oh, really? It gets a crap ton of references in later movies and books? I actually did not.
Good to know.
Really?
Canon. Or whatever.
Cutting room floor had a great description, which I feel like there's a couple of Star Wars properties that are on Disney Plus right now that they should just create a category called terrible but awesome at the same time, which is like like Caravan of Courage, the Ewoks cartoon, the Droids cartoon, the holiday special, you know, which I know that they haven't put the holiday special on.
I know.
They never will.
Attack of the Clones. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Careful. Careful.
I love Attack of the Clones, to be quite honest with you. But,
all right, Justin's going to do another example, so we're going to try to guess where we heard this sound.
Okay, let's see if this works or not. I hope it's saved.
Yeah, what is this? Yeah.
Any guesses?
Okay.
That's a little quiet, but what's coming through?
It sounds very familiar, although I can't remember. It's like more familiar from a previous episode. It sounds like from the inside of a spaceship. Sounds like from the inside of a ship. Nope.
Does it have anything to do with a space? Something in space?
Okay. Or not a spaceship, but it sounds like something where there's a console and things are. Damn. Okay.
No. Is
there music involved in it?
There's it is an in-world sound, so there's the soundtrack is going on, but it is something people can hear. The characters can hear.
Nothing with a spaceship.
The Blue Pig Gaming says that sounds like a speeder sound effect in Droids. Okay, guess me to watch Droids.
That's a good, close, interesting.
Blue Pig Gaming is actually like doing what do you call it?
We're getting like an Ewoks review here.
This is great.
Blue Pig Gaming is actually like working like what's the word, astroturfing for Lucasfilm Disney Plus to get people on the internet to watch all their old properties. That's what.
Ewok season 1 is good.
Season 1 and season 2.
See, the thing is, that's perfect because that's like a tease.
Oh, it's too
All right.
funny.
Can you play it again, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell us how like specific what you played was. Like, does it play that whole time? Is it like a long thing, or are you giving just a general vibe of the sound?
It's a long thing. It continues on. It moves.
Is it
Okay.
when Omega is like soldering Toto's leg on?
No.
Okay.
I have a guess.
Oh my God! Wait, is it when Omega is in captivity at the beginning, or
No.
oh my God!
All right, here's my guess, Justin. Is this Cad
see.
Bane's rocket boosters?
No, but that's close. That's very close.
Oh, is it
Okay.
Omega hurtling through space in the flight pod?
No.
Oh, is it Toto?
I wanted
Is
to
it
do that
Toto?
one though. It's Toto.
Jonah is
Yes.
nailing
It's
it.
when he's flying. Yes, Jonah. Perfect. Yeah, I just saw
Oh,
that.
nice.
And James said
Nice.
it's when Omega's on the ladder and Toto kind of flies. I love Toto, by the way. He's
Yeah. Seth Green, y'all. Seth Green.
I know. He's just
Which
such
I
a
don't know
great-
what Seth
I-
Green sounds
character.
like, except Toto. He sounds like Toto.
He does a lot of.
Have
different
you
voices,
seen it?
just
Did
like-
you watch Austin Powers back in the day? He was Dr. Evil's son. He
There's a lot of stuff
plays
on Robot Chicken.
Chris Griffin in Family Guy. And
don't
obviously
watch
I
Family
think the reason why he's got the Star Wars in is he did, Robot Chicken and did
And
all
see,
those.
and that I know, that I've seen,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
wasn't like acting in it. He created it.
I think he does
right?
do the voices for some of those. Yeah. Those characters in Robot Chicken.
This is cool, Cutting Room Floor. I was an intern at Nelvana Animation, the studio that produced droids for Lucasfilm, although long after the fact.
Oh.
That's still super cool.
Oh, that is very cool. So yeah, let's all go watch Droids, y'all. Let's do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
special
maybe.
spin-off episode. Yeah.
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 Maybe I'll do it.
You gotta know your audience, okay? And this is a
The audience
droids
wants
loving
audience.
audience.
We're gonna do
We want
droids.
droids.
Maybe I'll do
We
it
will give
like
them droids.
maybe we'll do it at a certain subscriber count or something. Then
Yeah.
put that together or something.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll do
400
droids at this
subscribers
tier.
is our droid. Okay, tell your friends.
Yeah.
We'll come
And
back
if we
to
get
this.
up to 1,000, we'll do Ewoks.
We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll come back to this.
Okay.
Okay, so that is Toto. Jonah's really good at this. I'm realizing.
Little Toto.
Okay, Toto. Okay, was Seth Green
Alright.
in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Ooh, I don't know. You're a big Buffy fan?
Well, not. I wouldn't call myself a big Buffy fan, but I did like. My ex made me watch them all at a certain point, so like I binge watched all of them and Angel. So I know. I'm
Sounds
very
like he
familiar.
is. I just looked it up. It sounds like he was in that show.
Okay, and I still don't recognize the voice, and I've seen this show. Okay, well.
He's
well.
pretty. He does like a pretty transformative role with Toto. Like it doesn't sound a lot like Seth Green at all.
Yeah. Plus,
and
plus
you know,
there's like a lot of sound design with that.
Maybe we could chat about like. I started really listening to Cad Bane's performance as well. I think
you hear
Cad
what
Bane and Seth. Yeah, very melodic sounding voice, and I hear what you're talking about with those like some type of filter or effect on it. It's really. And he does just the performance is really excellent.
Yeah, his
Like,
performance is very
really
excellent. My boosters, like I'm surprised that has not blown up as a meme from last week. Just like my booster, I just thought that was the funniest thing. Just so funny. And then also, it was so
Yeah.
funny.
I could not stop laughing. Just-
Oh my god, it was
So funny.
so funny.
or just what was it? The asset is getting away.
Yes.
which just speaks just about their relationship, Cad Bane and Toto needing each other and not needing each other. Like, it's such
Yeah.
a weird, funny relationship to me.
Yeah, cutting room floor. He does Robot Chicken, and I love his. I love the Star Wars specials of Robot Chicken. I just don't recognize him from that, but it is a transformative role, and I see that.
Yeah.
Now, something James and I were talking about last week, Justin. Maybe you could weigh in. Maybe chat can weigh in. Is the I'm convinced that Cad Bane sounds different in this series than he did in Clone
Yeah.
Wars, and I think in Clone Wars he had a much more robotic sounding voice. It was much more like the two pitches going at the same time. It and what I was guessing, and I tried to tweet, I tried to tweet David W. Collins if you're watching this, and he said that he couldn't like say, and I respected that. I respect that. But I asked if there was like a different filtering involved or like why it sounded a little bit different. Like before, I guess I can't like pull up an example here, but if you go back to Clone Wars
For
episodes
sure.
and listen to Cad Bane, his voice just sounds a lot more like not monotone, but it just sounds like two people talking at the same time. And what I was guessing was like it sounded like there was way more of like maybe a ring modulator effect before or harmonizing or like maybe like a format shifting and like a harmonizing or
Mhm.
something. And it
Yeah,
because here his voice sounds more relatively more normal. And before it really was like, like, I can't do it because I can't say two notes at the same time. But Justin,
I get what you're
thoughts?
saying. I'm kind of remembering this now. It was only, I don't want to say it was higher, but it was definitely more electronic aided sounding kind of a way.
Yeah.
I always kind of attributed that to his like little breathing apparatus thing that he's got
Mhm.
going on, attached to his cheeks or somewhat his whole head.
So what Blue Pig
And
Gaming is saying, yeah,
Yeah.
Duros have cool voice. Is he the only Duros that ever had a voice? I was thinking like maybe he had changed something about his breathing tubes or something, but
mm, I might be it.
So
Uh,
Teami in High Republic is Duros. Do you, Xanthe, remember her getting any speaking roles in the audiobook for Light of the Jedi? Do you
remind me
remember
who
that?
Tayami is. You know how I feel about Light of the
Did you?
Jedi. So
Yeah.
many
Did you finish it?
characters. Yeah, I did finish it. It's just
She
so
was
many
the
characters.
Duros. She's the one that died in the first opening battle, and she was the friend of Skiers.
Of
mm,
skier.
Uh, Skier. So I don't remember if she had any speaking
Skew.
roles, and I didn't listen to the audiobook. But honestly, for my memory, I can't remember a single other Duros that speaks, other than maybe I think there might be a Duros character in the what do you call it, the what's the Squadrons game, but I'd have to go
Rogue
back and listen
Squadron.
to what that character sounds like.
So Jonah says,
So
well, Cad Bane does have a metal plate now. Maybe that's why
yep.
he sounds a bit different. And I will have to say, because we did see that he obviously has changed in physical ways since Clone Wars, after this episode, the difference in his voice wasn't as jarring to me because I can attribute it to like he's been through changes. It was more so of a last episode thing where I was curious. But yeah, I mean, that's how it's working out in
Mhm.
my head. Um, the breathing tubes probably have something to do with it. Yeah, they got rid of the processing of his voice, although I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, um, Blue, Blue Pig
He's,
Gaming. I don't read the audiobooks. um, and also, James, for
I
the record, the audiobooks they're not audio dramas, so it's not like there was actors
It's
playing. So
yeah, it's
I wouldn't
right,
really know any more than you would from reading the.
right.
I would listen to Star Wars the radio play. That'd be great.
I would love that. I
There
think that's
there
what
are
Totally
Star
love
Wars
that.
radio
yeah,
dramas.
yeah. But I think also Cad Bane's performance, he has more vocal fry, I think, in this
I was
show,
gonna say
right?
that. Yeah, it's almost that.
And
It's
vocal
like
fry being that
uh,
sound,
But more
right?
of a natural one than like before it was
Yeah,
sort of an
yeah.
artificial vocal fry.
yeah,
It's almost
yeah,
like he's teetering the edge of the lowest tone he can make, and a vocal fry kind of a thing. It's like
yeah.
just where there's like still some tone audible, and so it's not just complete pops like a vocal fry. But
I mean,
I
it's
don't know. It's
similar to like
very
when Justin and I were playing the same thing, and when I played the note, you heard it more clearly as one note, but when Justin played it, emphasizing both of the pitches that actually are present, like it sounded like two
Mm,
notes. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like this. Like before, it was more like Justin's version, and now it's sort of more like my version, where it sounds more like one
Hmm.
note, but with like artifact.
yeah.
Um, Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, we'll continue to keep track of it, I guess.
Hmm.
I
I'm
love that.
I'm curious to what they do if he appears in live action properties
Oh
in the
yeah.
Yeah.
future. You know, I think Corey I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name. Who I remembered it last week, but I don't remember the person that plays Cad Bane. His performance is so great. I would love to see him do the voice of Cad Bane in live action in the future, and maybe have an actor portray him with maybe CG or something. Because obviously that would be a very I feel like that visual to make him look really convincing and good would need to be really well done, obviously, you know.
Oh yeah.
um as opposed to like the Nemodians from the prequels, like that. If they use those type of like live prosthetics, it would make him look pretty cheesy when he's the Trade Federation, obviously, right?
Right.
Corey
um
Burton. Corey Burton.
Corey Burton, right.
I think the Trade
um
Federation looked great.
Oh no, they look great, but it would ruin the effect that Cad Bane's supposed to have. Like they don't
Yeah, I
look
agree. I
menacing.
mean, I
They're
mean,
supposed to look
their
yeah, kind
character
of like
design is
silly.
such that it makes it, you know, it
Yeah.
works for the character design. Actually
Exactly,
have one more
exactly.
small example.
Yeah, let's hear
Let's
it.
hear it.
Oh, is
Timpani,
this when the
shaker.
this is when okay, yeah. Is this when the shark is like approaching the swimming person?
Uh,
Yes, exactly.
so it's when the hunter says we need a bigger ship, right? uh, we're gonna need a bigger ship.
It sounded like
Um,
Jaws, right? Like, did you notice that?
Oh yeah.
There was that part where it sounded very Jaws-like.
Yeah.
Um,
Jaws. I'm
Um
thinking Dvorak, right?
oh yeah, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
you said there's a timpani hit in this, huh?
yeah. Dee-dee. Two timpani
Went,
hits
went
and then
right, right,
shakers.
went right past the percussionist on this one, I think. Uh, Blue Pig said, I believe, meant to say Jaws theme, but it also kind of looks like they
Jawa.
said
The
Jawa's
Java
theme,
theme.
That would be
which is
funny.
in. By the way, the Jawas have a 7/8 theme from The Mandalorian. The Jawas' music is in 7, actually, which I find pretty interesting. But
You're
um,
gonna need a bigger shuttle. Yeah.
man, I don't
Anyone
I don't
recognize it?
know. What do you think, Justin? Do you what are your guesses?
I'm lost on this one.
This is
Unfortunately,
actually
Let,
it feels like it.
we get the
let's
rattles.
use our
Go
We get
ahead.
the rattle
let's use,
here.
let's see if we can
We
figure
get
it
the
out.
rattle here.
Hmm.
We get the rattle
Um,
here.
this
Is this
is
during the standoff when they're trying when Fennec is saying, "I'll give you the case for Omega,"
ooh.
and he says, you give me the case first," and then little Toto drives up behind all of them and says, "I've got the case," and
Not quite.
runs off.
Not
It's
Ah,
really.
not quite that. Okay. Um, is this have anything to do with Omega and Toto
I'm gonna be careful
specifically
how
this?
I answer this
Okay.
because last week I said that something didn't have anything to do with Echo, and it turned out that it did. Um, um, oh, you keep hearing? Oh, you can hear that? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's the sound of when chat messages pop up, and I didn't know that you could
oh, the
actually hear that.
pops. Oh,
That's annoying. How do I stop that? I'll try to work on that for next time. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, that's annoying. Um, how? What if I actually had a metronome on in the background? Um, that's how you know I'm a musician. Um, it Omega is involved. Yes, she
Okay.
has something to do with it, and I would say Toto is probably there.
Okay. Can we hear it one more time?
Yeah. Boom, boom, other stuff.
It's not when Cad's coming down to say introduce himself to Omega in the very beginning, is it?
No, it's not the very because the very very beginning is when we get the like Western
It's
thing.
there's more to it. Right. If it's got Omega,
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's when Fennec and Omega are talking with the pods in the background. At some point in there.
With the pods in the background? No,
Well, I mean
Well,
the tubes,
yeah.
the frozen,
the clones. The
There was a
clones.
nice there was a
yeah.
nice version of Omega's theme playing on some bell tones. I don't know if they were synths or if they were,
Mm,
actual,
Yes, but you're
samples of
talking about
Tim
a
Gone.
different. You're
yeah,
talking about with the clone tanks.
Yeah, on the Clone
yeah,
Tanks there was something very different happening there, and it was really nice. That was not what this was.
yeah.
Um,
Mustangs.
is this? Yeah, I think you stumped us, Xanthe.
All right. First of all, I disabled the chat sound, so hopefully you don't hear that anymore. And it is when Cad. It's after he says like by hook or by crook, you're coming with me, and it's when like Bane retrieves Omega again, and then they see the dead Tonwei. Tonwei.
Mm.
So
I
yeah,
know, poor Conway.
but
I know that's the original voice actress too.
Mm-hmm.
which is really
Um,
cool.
just
Um,
just to layer out in this episode. It's
Just,
cool that they got her back.
I'm
hey, look,
surprised.
cameo. Bye.
I actually thought it was. I thought it was great that she died. Or I mean,
Yeah.
not great, but like, it makes it easier to tie up that loose end canon wise. Um, but what I found striking is like that Omega really cared. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Jonah, you were kind of right. She cared. She was like, she needs help.
Yeah, I mean, these were her
Yeah,
family, right? Like for years and
mm.
years and years and years, And I
And I
guess
suppose
somebody did the. Yeah, go ahead, Justin. Yeah,
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and at that point, I don't think she knew that the Kaminoans were after her yet,
right.
like trying to get at
And
her. So it's to see someone that she knew dead,
and
perhaps.
that's what
But
she says at
sorry.
the end. She's like so heartbroken. She's like, "Why are the Kaminoans after me?" Right? She's like
Yeah.
almost completely freaked out by this because it's one thing for the Empire to be after them all, like the clones, right? And who are having these. And Omega, it's really cool that Omega is like both mature enough and like understands that she still believes in Crosshair, like this is not their fault, right? So she understands why the clones are after them because it's not, they can't control it. But for some reason, that it hasn't clicked for her that the Kaminoans like are not on her side, even though she grew up with them. And somebody I was reading and realized that they said that Omega is actually a first generation clone. She doesn't have age acceleration. So
Right.
she is the same age as
Wait,
or like
I
a
thought
little bit younger than Boba Fett,
Yeah.
right? Like, but she's probably older than all the Bad Batch members.
Yeah.
Like actually older,
But
which
not
is really
trained,
cool.
but still, if she's aging like a human, that's still
Right.
young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Not to
Whereas,
say it's kind of like
Oh,
Grogu
right.
hasn't matured,
yeah, whereas the Bad
and,
Batch, they're younger, but I think they're like emotionally and intellectually
yep,
developed faster too.
exactly.
But also
Exactly.
like, Blue Pig Gaming says Tanwi was Omega's mother figure. I mean,
Yep.
Lamas. Wait, was it Lamasu?
Lamasu was,
Sorry,
yeah, it
Nalase.
was.
Nalase.
Now let's say, sorry,
But
excuse me.
still,
Yeah.
I mean, they were all her family, so
Yeah.
it was still something that I found. Okay, going back, sorry, like my brain is now going very fast. The fact that she like really showed caring of the Kaminoans sort of makes me. It solidifies what I was thinking in the second episode, which is when she takes off her crown headband, and
Mm.
what that could
Mm,
symbolize. And I heard a lot of people
sure.
say that like it was sort of like symbolizing a new beginning or new I don't know, that moment in the ship. I I I always thought that moment in the ship when she was alone before she touched the dirt. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like it's in this.
Mhm.
It's she's sitting alone in the cockpit and her theme is playing and she takes off the headband and kind of looks at it. Like I thought that was very sad. Like she missed like she knew that this is where she had to be, but sort of like I think she has fond feelings overall toward like she cares, and obviously Nala Se cares about her too.
Yeah.
Um, and something that Omega really sets a good example for, I guess, or um, is solid in. Like she does this episode after episode, so it's not just a fluke. Is she both cares but also knows how to take care of herself when the time is necessary. And I think we most see that when she is trying to fix, she's offering Toto, like she's trying to fix Toto's
Mm.
leg and kind of talking
Mm.
about like, Cad Bane's not very nice to you. And, sort of the way that she's talking to him shows that she kind of cares. And obviously she wants to help fix his leg and can, and it's no big deal. And she wants to help him. And at the same time, she's not like so empathetic and just caring about the other people that she forgoes her own mission. So I actually thought it was like I was surprised when she was fixing his leg and then turned him off, like or whatever she did. Like that surprised me, and I was pleasantly surprised that at the end of the day, like she could both have her self-preservation instinct preserved.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you that I was. I mean, in the back of my head, we kind of felt that she was definitely playing a trick on Toto, but the fact that she still fixed his leg and didn't just hit him over the head with something,
Right.
and even he even has a moment later where he says it actually does feel like new, like she didn't just fix it, she fixed it,
Yeah, she
kind
did
of
a
Yeah.
a
good
thing.
job. Yeah.
But it's everything with what you've been saying has been really fun to see her grow and very quickly. Maturity wise, I mean, Camino probably wasn't a bad place for her to be. She was taken care of. She worked. She was being taught things, but she was taken care of. So all those fond memories of you know sticks with her in the sense of how to be kind. I'm guessing, or how to at least she was. I mean, I'm lost for words, but I'm enjoying this. I'm seeing that growth, and in this episode in particular, especially the moment you were talking about, you really see that character change,
Yeah.
in my opinion. It's almost like you didn't think she could trick somebody.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know,
And I'm glad that
and
she
the other
can.
time we really got that was when she stood up to was it Rasa? Um, and for a moment there had the bow out
Oh, Rafa.
saying
Yeah.
like I will shoot, and then she gets tricked, of course, um, in that sense, we
Yeah.
it's like she's learned how to see through that or not trust. I don't know. I'm agreeing with you in a very long-winded, circling way.
I also don't want to
Well,
I also don't want to romanticize her time with the Kaminoans because I think kids, if you grow up there, like she doesn't also have the experience to know that her experience there was actually shitty. So,
right.
Of
True.
course.
yeah, yeah, that's all I can say. But, like she misses them, yes, but it doesn't mean that she had a nice time there. It just that's what she knows.
Hmm.
And clearly she's being used. I mean, I'm just curious what's going to happen to her. James, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm just it's I think it also boils a little bit down to how she spent most of her time on Camino. Like whether her time there, was ultimately healthy or not. I mean, her time spent there was in healing the clones, right? She was a medical assistant, and she has a both a training and then just like kind of a nature of of healing and helping, and just from the very the get-go of her relationship with the Bad Batch, she was helping Echo, who got knocked out in that lunchroom fight, right? So she has this kind of nurturing nature about her, which is interesting, that she in many ways is like the what's the alter ego of Boba Fett, that we learn in this episode, because Boba Fett from an early age was taught to
How
basically
is she an alter ego? Wait.
they said in the episode that she is that the original clone and
Yeah, but that doesn't
Alpha.
mean that she's an alter ego. Oh, wait,
So
unless what do you mean? What do you mean by alter ego?
so yeah, so for instance, they say like there was a clone that was referred to as Alpha,
Mm-hmm.
who was later renamed Boba, and we have Omega, and these two have the original genome
Yeah.
of,
I know.
of
Yeah.
Jango Fett,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in many ways, these two have like a very interesting um, relationship in that they're both essentially clones of each other.
Though they don't have a
And
relationship yet.
no, I know. What I'm saying is like with they're very similar. They're both they don't have accelerated growth, right?
You're
They're
talking
both
about
are
physical similarities.
no,
They
but I'm
have a
talking
link.
about
I get what you're
I'm
saying.
saying
Yeah.
there's a link. There's literally the alpha and the omega. So I mean that
Alpha
right
Omega,
there.
same genetic.
It
I get
couldn't
it.
be
Totally.
Yeah.
any clearer that
No, 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 no.
there is
I and I and
is
I'm
a
trying to
parallel here,
and I clearly I get that. I get that.
right?
I'm just
So
saying,
the point
do we know that
the
she's an
point
alter
being,
ego?
well, we know that they have a very similar they have a very similar situation in terms of how they differ from the rest of their clone brothers, right? And I guess where I'm going with this is that Boba was raised to be a hunter. Boba was raised to be violent. Boba was raised to be a backstabber and someone that only looks out for themselves. I mean, Omega was raised to be a helper, to be a healer, to be, a helper of the clones. So it's interesting to see those different, those different life paths that these two
So
genetic clones have taken, right?
I'm looking up the
this
definition
is
of
kind
alter
of
ego.
so I was gonna say maybe antithesis or instead of alter ego, because alter ego is like
I might be taking this too
I'm one person
literally.
and then
Just
I'm.
You're definitely
I
taking it
think
too
yeah.
literally.
okay, okay, okay. Fair enough.
Omega is the opposite. It's like they're
Right.
the it's the mirror. It's the
Oh,
not the mirror. The it's the
I hate this.
it's the I know you do. It's the but we're gonna find the right word for this. Um,
She's a foil.
the
A foil,
doppelganger, the
sure, sure,
shoil,
sure.
Not a
Doppelganger.
the
Yeah, what
shadow,
maybe,
shadow,
maybe.
the
Here's the thing. Okay, wait, wait,
uh
wait. Stop, stop, stop.
the evil twin. Evil twin.
No,
She's the good twin.
no,
He's the
no.
evil sibling.
Okay, here's my whole. Here's what I think. Okay, obviously they're genetically identical, or they have the same. Yes, for sure. Their situation in life, physically, genetically, is the same, pretty much. But they don't know each other, and I also hesitate to just purely based on genetic material. I
Uh-huh.
hesitate to analyze Omega in the context of another person that she's not even aware of, or maybe she is aware
Well,
of. But
I'm just going based off the show, which literally had expository dialogue that mentioned Boba Fett in the same sentence as explaining her backstory, right? So we
yes,
have
but
this
you're talking about it
moment
from a
in.
meta. You're talking about it from a meta perspective. I'm talking about Omega herself, her character.
Mhm,
Yeah, sure. Maybe the
mhm.
creators created her character to be a whatever to Boba, but as a character, Omega is her own. She's her own thing. She's her own person. Even if she's genetically like, if I had an identical twin
Of
out there,
course, yeah.
I wouldn't want someone to be like, oh, you're the alter ego of such and such. It's like, no, I'm my own person, and um, you know, maybe they're related to me and maybe we have the same genetic material, but I think something that is very Star Wars is, even if they're genetically identical, so you could call them identical twins or
Mhm.
whatever, like
Sure.
family is all about, it is not just about genetics. It's easy to, genetic similarities, genetic material is easy to come by in Star Wars. It's about like,
Agreed.
the thing is, the only reason Boba is considered Jango's son, even though Jango has a lot of other, creatures out there with like people out there with his genetic material, probably more so than I
Mhm.
have of my parents, even though he has a lot of clones out there, Boba is his only son. And that's because Jango chose to specifically keep a clone for himself and raise a son. Like Jango
Right.
decided, Boba's Jango's son because Jango wanted a son and treated one of them like a son. And so Omega's like, as far as we're concerned right now, because we don't know that, as far as I'm concerned, Django doesn't know about Omega. That happened after he
Of
died.
course.
And
Yeah, neither
so,
of them know,
yeah, I
right?
wouldn't, yeah. So, um, did I get lost on my rant? That was my thing. That was just my
It
thing.
would be interesting though if there was a future moment where Boba and Omega cross paths for a moment,
I think they
and
will.
Well, I
maybe
think that,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
yeah, maybe they know or maybe they don't. Maybe it could be even interesting if they talk to each other without realizing what it was. I mean,
Hmm.
she would recognize him as a clone, perhaps. Maybe this is years and years later, kind of a thing, and maybe confused about his age.
Right. Well, I guess
um,
this is Xanthe. This is exactly what I'm saying, which is to literally we're saying the same thing, but just in different ways. Which is
Okay.
they both I
oh,
have completely different backstories, but they ultimately have the same genetic material. But that what makes them different is their experiences and their personalities and their outlooks and and like they have completely different approaches to they're both kind of they both have different responses to similar situations where Boba cuts and runs and is basically out for himself. Omega brings people in and she brings people together and nurtures others and helps others along the way. And I guess that's what I'm saying. There's like they are foils in their own way because of that. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see them together because they're so different, right?
I
and
think what's
with
gonna
that, it's I was gonna say it's kind of interesting to think about all these inhibitor chips making all these clones somewhat the same personality, because that could be, if they didn't have that, imagine all the clones do develop personalities. They have, we introduce characters, they get their names, they get their stories as we see them through the other shows, but truly how different they could have been if they were each given their own
life.
Right.
life, essentially. So
Yeah.
I guess what I in what I'm finding interesting on both sides and all sides of this is that here are two young clones that were not given, for what we understand, any kind of personality inhibitor chips. Didn't start exactly the same way, but started with the same, say, lab or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
then watched what could and should have been the same result go in two completely different directions because of where they were, who was raising them.
Who saw their dad's head get chopped off.
So that's it,
Right.
cut off.
Right.
And now we have little Omega seeing Ton Wei getting shot. So
Right. Right.
everyone's got to have their origin story.
And like Boba didn't
He
have
gets
like
a cape
the
and
Bad Batch to take him
jetpack.
in.
She gets a bow and maybe flying boots. And I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
I think they're gonna meet. I think it's gonna be. I feel like I feel like they will. It'll come up. I think the question of what means family. I think family is going to be called into question when they meet, and I hope
Yeah.
so. Sort of, I hope that before they embrace each other as siblings, I hope there's a little bit of a reckoning with like, wait,
Yeah.
um, yeah, do we actually feel like we're going to be siblings,
Yeah.
or
That
even
would
if
be
they do,
interesting.
just sort of, yeah. I mean, I can just imagine her being like, the Bad Batch is my family.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry, now I'm imagining 200,000 Gungans are ready with the million more on the way. And from the chat, thank you, Blue Pig
oh
Gaming,
yeah.
for that wonderful image.
Attack of the
Now I want to
Gungans.
see, like, you ever seen those like weird
My father didn't fight in the Gungan War.
those weird battle simulators where they're like 100 chickens versus 1,000 T-Rexes, and they like, it's just a computer simulator. So like 1,000 Jar Jars versus like 1,000 droids. That would be, oh, someone make that happen for us.
um, I
Or billion porgs.
as will not surprise. I thought a lot about that battle and how the Gungans, obviously their technology was far inferior at first to the Trade Federation, but gotta love the fact that they were super losing. Gungans were not doing very well until someone just like pressed the thing and then there was a computer malfunction and then the droids were all gone. It's just very relatable. Definitely that that plot point definitely stands the test of time. Very relatable. That yeah, they could have won, but then there was just like a computer malfunction and just technology. Anyway, he was a navigator on a Naboo freighter. But was it a big freighter though? Um, so did anyone else have any other thoughts about the music in this episode? We had a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
No.
The jet
The
boosters from the
whole
boots was very
yeah,
was
Jeff
pretty incredible and like scary to watch. I thought the animation there was really good because they made it look really awkward, and I feel like that would be very awkward. Like you can tell
Hmm.
it's not like a Mandalorian with a jetpack where it's like you're gonna use it. You know, it's kind of smooth, sort of.
Sure.
It was like he was trying to balance on like these two thruster. Like it looked very awkward.
Well, this boils down to Justin's like pretty poignant, observations about the what do you call it, the speeders flying through the air
Hmm.
without like, any like real sense of propulsion. But they got the rocket boots down,
Yeah.
to make them look a little bit more realistic. Not worried about those speeders, but like those boots better look right.
It's a little awkward enough, you got to put your feet in the different directions, right? I can
Yeah.
only imagine how
It did look
difficult that
good.
must be. And he was what, tied up too or something like that. So
Yeah.
that was all
Just the way
leg
he
power
maneuvered
there.
over the ledge, I was like, oh yeah, that's awkward, and I'm glad. Yeah.
Um though I thought of the action cues we've been getting throughout this series, the Fennec Bane fight was pretty, not just jam packed with cues. It seemed to be thematically consistent, or at least developmentally consistent, because it was a lot of the brushes, a lot of that rhythm, and there was all these
Hmm.
string parts that were very not the same, but very like this. Like there was one that was like dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun da da dun da 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 da. They always kind of had this thing going with it. And even later, as Omega's falling, I think I wrote there's like this like dun 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 dun. It's all the same tempo, but it's just these low string, like not stabs. I like a picture comes to mind. It's the like full big draws kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
Half bounce, half bow kind of a thing. I really liked that cue. That whole kind of long musical feature there.
Hmm.
Right. And when these moments happen, right, you've got this there's like a solid subdivision throughout the whole segment, right? There's not like they don't have interruptions to the subdivisions, whether they're changing time signatures or whatever. At least the subdivisions stay consistent. That way that you never lose that sense of like driving momentum, right?
Hmm.
Because what they could do is like score different shots in different spots of the scene, and stop the rhythm, but you don't hear that. Maybe they do need to make certain arrivals land at certain cuts, and so therefore you might be in 4/4 for a good segment, and then all of a sudden we need to do a 3/4 measure because there's a clip that lands right when you need to, right? So you actually have to cut a measure short, but you don't cut the subdivision short because that,
Yeah.
right? So these scenes, like you could really just put a metronome on and just trace the eighth notes or whatever throughout the whole section. They don't stop, because if they did stop, you'd have the subconscious feel of like the momentum has stopped, right?
I was going to
Um,
say that's a good trick. That's a good trick there. Just cut, find the eighth notes, line that up, and then there's your time signature changing when you
Right.
need
I
them. Oh,
honestly do
here's
that
that 5/8
I
real
do that
quick.
so often. I do that
Yeah.
so often.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like last year, I had to
Hmm.
compose like a 20-second song, and I was like thinking of what the song was going to be in my head, and obviously I picked the tempo based on how many measures I needed the song to be, and then I just like divided it by 20 seconds so I could just put and these are the benefits of DAW-based
Yeah.
composing is
Yeah.
when you're composing in a DAW, like Kevin Kiner is for this, you can mathematically just line everything up on the grid so that it'll work out. And so that,
Right.
yeah, that's a great benefit to that. Um, Darth Jar
Right.
Jar, level one music noob. What does 4/4 versus 3/4 mean? That's a good question. Blue Pig Gaming. It literally
Sure.
just
Yeah.
means the amount of beats in one bar. So 4/4 means
Mm-hmm.
4 beats in the bar, and 3/4 means 3 beats. So at the end of the day, they both have the same denominator, 4/4. So if you think about that like fractions, actually that's a good way to put it. Is if you think about those like fractions, like 4/4 and 3/4, you wouldn't have to do any like conversions because they have the same denominator. You could really count them if you added them together. You could count them as one bar of 7/4. You could say it's a bar of 4/4 plus 3/4, or you could say it's a bar
Mm-hmm.
of 2/4 plus 2/4 plus 2/4 plus 1/4. So it's just a way of like it's just a way
Yeah.
of it's the way of dividing up divvying up how many like
Yeah.
pizza pieces basically of beats.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you need like a
And what
musical reference, a lot of popular music is in four. It's very even. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You put the hand clap on 2 and 4 kind of a thing. Whereas in 3, 4,
A lot of waltzes, like
uh,
waltzes are in 3/4.
a waltz. So like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
Huh.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. It's
And
got this kind of like spiral feel to it.
And Blue Pig brings up, so like a metal song would be in 1004, which you might it's a good that's I then we're talking about more about subdivisions of the beat. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe some genres of music never really subdivide, meaning create rhythms that are faster than the beat. One and da 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 da, or so metal might be in a like 4 beats or 3/4 beats. They might be in a time signature, but they're going to use subdivisions that are much faster than the generals, right? So right, so you're going to hear just faster subdivisions of the beat, even though the general bar might still be in 4/4 or 5/4. In fact, lots of metal is in 4/4. Because still there is a sense of driving consistency to make it more meaningful.
and this is literally just you can just think of it really as mathematical fractions. It's just like fractions.
Yeah.
Like if you, instead of 4 at the bottom, you could put 8 or you could put 16 at the bottom, and that just means you're like splitting the pizza into more tiny pieces.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's how that would work. Like, so the same amount of time would be taken by a measure that's in 4/4 and 2 measures of 2/4. And the same amount of time would also be taken in a measure of 4/4 and a measure of 8/8. See, like it's just like math,
Mhm.
like the fraction, it's just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have something that's like in 6/4, you could also think about that as it would take up the same amount of time as 3/2, 3/2.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
And
but the
and
reason the reason like the way people, it's not just a guessing game though. It's not just like, oh, I like when 4 is at the bottom, so I'm always going to use 4 and just divide it that way. The reason people will switch it to a different denominator is because it can tell you where to put accents, and it can just help like separate things for you, which can help make it easier to play or help make it
yeah.
more easy to like translate what you want the meaning to of it to be. So it's more like of an artistic choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, lots of traditions of music throughout the world don't use these terms to refer to their music. And what we were kind of referring to before, which was like, composers might score a piece where they might pick a groove, or they might pick and they might pick something that's in 4/4. Dun dun do 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 dun do 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 do. But say that there's an explosion 5 bars in that happens on beat 3, right? And you wanna end your score on beat 3, right? So dun dun do 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 dun dun do 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 1 2 3, right? So you kind of what we were kind of talking about earlier is that you might change your time signatures depending on what's happening visually in the film that you're watching, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good question.
great questions.
Yeah, that's about all I had to say about this episode. I liked tech snoring. I don't know why. I just thought that was a delightful detail. And I thought the music at the end with Omega's theme, whatever instrument was being used, I thought it was a little bit shrill, but but I still
Very
liked that
odd
sweet
ending.
moment.
The oboe
Was
at the
it? It
end.
was like a
Yeah.
wind. It was, like a wind
Yeah.
thing. But also fully, maybe it sounds amazing on amazing speakers. So that could be,
I felt
what.
the ending was just kind of abrupt anyway, so just kind of like it's done. Maybe it was because of that music cue. It didn't feel like I don't know. It just felt weird to me.
Yeah, but so much happened in the episode that I feel like the end is just like, let's just catch our breath. Yeah,
Yeah, big one. It's a big episode for sure. A lot of new information, a lot of action too.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, it was pleasing to me. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in
thanks,
with
Dan.
your wonderful thoughts and great guesses.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. Next week is episode 10. Oh my gosh, we're more than halfway done. Next week is episode 10 of The Bad Batch, and we will all be back, right? All right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
We'll all
yeah.
be back on Saturday, same time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'll get the page up on YouTube so you can press like, the notification, like whatever, press whatever, the bell. I'm not good at YouTube talk. And so if you can't make it, or if you do have a thought that you want us to get to and you see the episode before we stream, which you will probably if you're watching the stream, you can, I think the live chat is like already open then. So you can like leave a question or a comment or your favorite thing before we start. Anyway, let's do our outro. 2, 3, 4. Do 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 do